Conference Championship Sundays in the books. We had two games. They were completely different from each other. One was a true slaughtering and blowout. One was a back and forth game that may or may not have had official influence. And of course, we're going to go through all those two games back and forth, talk about the Super Bowl ahead, and I'm going to have a lot of fun soaking in this AFC and NFC Championship, which will be remembered for various and different reasons. But let's get to it. The crew is here. Alex Renelia, Brian McKee, and Alex Young. What is up, my friends?
How we doing, everyone?
How we doing? What's going on?
Back, gentlemen. Let's rock and roll.
As I said, this was a big week in the NFL. Conference Championship Sunday, and it was a tale of two different games. So let's get to it right away. The first, at 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, we had the Philadelphia Eagles take on the San Francisco Giants. The Eagles won by a score of 31-7, and they have punched their ticket to Arizona, and they will be representing the NFC in Super Bowl 57. So there's so much to take in. So I think the best way to discuss it is going one by one with these various subjects. Same with the AFC Championship. So no need to recap the game as a whole. It will just naturally go its way. So let's talk about the AFC Championship. First things first. Brock Purdy, the guy who became undefeated, Mr. Irrelevant, leading his team to the NFC Championship, ultimately led to an injury in the game thanks to the pass rush of the Philadelphia Eagles. The four-string Josh Johnson comes in. He gets a concussion. Purdy ultimately comes back, but it comes out that he tore his UCL, a ligament in the elbow, and he is now sidelined for a total of 6 months. So
if he doesn't need surgery.
Yeah, exactly. So they're saying he might need Tommy John surgery, mostly associated with baseball. So a lot to take in, and we'll definitely get into the quarterback fiasco of the San Francisco 49ers on a later pod. But for this specific game, where the spread was really close, where even though the 49ers definitely had a challenge ahead, some people really felt that they had a chance, whether it was just all the talent that surrounded Purdy, as well as a stellar defense. I thought the 49ers can be in it, but of course, like I said in the first quarter, Brock Purdy gets the Brock Purdy has the elbow injury, throws that interception. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't in that drive what could be the infamous Devontae Smith one-handed catch? Was it in that drive or right before? I didn't have the time to go back, but I think it was
like two. I think it was 2 series after.
Okay.
Yeah. It was relatively close after that moment. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously in an alternate world, if, the 49ers challenge that play and it shows that it clearly wasn't a catch. And even Devontae Smith said, hey, we got to snap it so we could get away with it. So, there it goes for those people who say, anyone's trying to get a leg up. But yeah, Hassan Riddick is the one responsible for breaking his UCL, and it clearly set the tone for the rest of the NFC Championship. So I will ask the daunting question, gentlemen. If Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, is this a completely different game, and did the 49ers have a chance?
Yeah. In my eyes, yeah. I was just talking to my buddy who is a diehard Eagles fan, and we agreed just the way how the Eagles looked, they probably would have overcome them and won. I think they would have been the 49ers just how they looked, but it would have been a way closer game and a way more entertaining game. And it's kind of, to me, it was kind of like when we see the Jets this year with like the Mike White and Zach Wilson thing, where like they played so hard for Mike White, but then Zach Wilson comes in and played for a team. Same thing with Josh Johnson. Nothing against Josh Johnson, but everyone trusted Purdy these last few weeks. He got the team's respect. And then you have Josh Johnson get thrown into the equation and throws the whole rhythm of the team off.
Yeah. And he looked scared out there. Yeah. He was not ready.
Yeah, he was not ready. And, it's unfortunate for him. But yeah, I think the game would have been a lot more competitive. I think it would have been a lot more fun. But the Eagles just honed in on knowing the quarterback could not even throw the football. And all they had to do was bottle up Christian McCaffrey. So I don't know if they would have won the game, but I definitely would have thought it would have been a lot closer and a lot more fun game to watch than what we got if he didn't get hurt.
it really bums you out. And I know in the group chat I said right away, this game is over. Whether that was mad about my wager that I knew wasn't going to come true, or just this, we've seen this story play so many times, especially in football, especially in that old adage, if the quarterback is hurt, you have no chance of winning. And well, look what happened.
It's really the truth, if you think about it, they were down to their third string quarterback who ended up being this good, very, very good player in Brock Purdy, and then they go to their fourth string quarterback in Josh Johnson. Like, what do you expect? Like a fourth string quarterback, even if Josh Johnson's been around the league for more than a decade now. He's a very serviceable player. He's had good games. He's had some bad games, but when you're not with the number one offense all of practice the entire season, where do you expect that rhythm and chemistry to come from in the NFC Championship game? And then he gets hurt again, which is just, I've never seen a team lose 4 quarterbacks in an entire season before. Yeah. It's absolutely mind blowing. I don't know, maybe like they have to look into the training staff or something like that. Like, where's the health and training staff of the San Francisco 49ers with all these injuries right now? Or is it just horrible luck? I don't know, but I think that they were completely shocked. They couldn't respond. And when your defense is on the field that much, no matter if you're the best defense in the league or the worst defense in the league, you're going to get tired. And that's what we saw in the San Francisco defense. Bosa got knocked around a ton. I was actually shocked. I think he played his worst game the entire season, in my opinion.
Not a good time for that.
Even if Purdy was there, I don't see the 49ers defense really playing well. They looked arrogant going into it that they're the top dog. And like I said last week, my opinion, I knew Philly was going to beat them regardless if Purdy was in or not, because Philly's defense is the best pass rush I've ever seen. They compare it to the 85 and the 84 Bears. This is the best defense I've ever seen. Like, there's no reason why Hassan Reddick isn't for Defensive Player of the Year with the amount of sacks he's had this season and impact on this team. The 49ers offensive line that we talked about it being one of the best in the league completely got washed the entire game. Constant pressure, no run game. So I don't even think if Purdy was in, if it would have really done a difference. I just think they were completely overwhelmed by Philadelphia, and they didn't have an answer. Because even the couple of drives he did play before he got hurt, it didn't really look good, in my opinion. I didn't see anything crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine what could have been with the situation being different at the quarterback. Obviously, like, you guys kind of hit everything. But, I think really what it boils down to is, again, the San Francisco 49ers defense being so exhausted very early on in the game. Obviously, they had 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, and I feel like that was just more of a product of being able to extend drives at their will for Philadelphia. But, not being able to continue to move the chains and just, relying on 3 and out. These guys couldn't catch their breath. And in addition to not being prepared, like you guys hinted at, I think it's just a matter of a matter of coaching. And I thought that, Nick Sirianni didn't take the home field advantage for granted. He took, full advantage of the situation at hand. And, that has been, the quiet strength of Philadelphia all year has been that defense. We always kind of disregarded it at, how potent it can be because of how good that their run game is and how, lethal the Jalen Hurts could be in play action. But some of their biggest bread and butter is their front four, and then those ability to have shutdown corners on one side of the field, I think, is tremendous. And they weren't asked to do a whole lot, but like you said, you got standout game from Reddick and a few other guys, and they punched their ticket. And that's it.
I have to ask this question. Kyle Shanahan, he has led his franchise to 3 of the last 4 NFC championships, winning one of them, and was leading in the fourth quarter of that Super Bowl to ultimately lose. We know that he has been known to not be able to close out games, whether it's this or being the OC out in Atlanta or, being part of that tremendous tree in Washington and all that. He's obviously a football lifer, clear football guy. But after this situation and game, I've seen people say, you get us so far, but what's the point? Fire him, but, everybody should get fired, according to people. But I think it is a legitimate question now at this point. How do we see Kyle Shanahan at this point? And I will bring up what was said earlier. Brian said, is this a matter of bad coaching that he's doing or him leading his personnel? Or is it just crazy bad luck for this franchise who has won 5 Super Bowls before? So who knows? That's why I'm asking you guys.
Yeah, so like I think he's a good coach. Like they went undefeated with a third string quarterback who was the last pick in the draft that year as a rookie. In my opinion, we talk a coach of the year and stuff like that. No coach of the year candidate had a third string quarterback go in and go undefeated and almost make a Super Bowl run. Made a Super Bowl run and got lost because of an injury. In the NFC Championship game. In my opinion, he's coach of the year on that regard alone because to have that just shows, in my opinion, being prepared at any level of the depth chart, and that's a coaching thing. When you have a third string quarterback being that poised and have all those intangibles already set up, yes, that's Purdy on him being a student of the game, but it's also coaching at every level. That's not just focusing on QB1. And there's a lot of coaches that only focus on the starters, and then the bench guys, they sit on the bench, they never go in. They don't get their reps, they don't get a little special attention, and you see a third string quarterback play like a $30 million a year quarterback, top 10 in the NFL this season. So I think he's done a wonderful job. Yeah. I think he's done a wonderful job at coaching the 49ers. I think what comes down to is, the adjustments. Good coaches to great coaches are those halftime adjustments, even though Peyton Manning doesn't believe in them, or just being able to shift on a dime and figure out what to do. You had a dominant running game with CMC and Deebo Samuel the entire year. Where to go? Deebo Samuel. Everyone loves Deebo Samuel. 6 carries, -9 yards, and then 3 catches for 33. I don't know. Maybe do some outside run plays more. Everyone's going to focus in on the box, tackle to tackle when you lose your quarterback. Change it up, jet sweeps. Get out there. You have Kittle. He loves the huge thing with Josh Johnson. Josh Johnson's a running quarterback. In my opinion, I would have left Purdy out and kept Johnson. If Josh Johnson was able to play, if he didn't get hurt with the concussion, they would have done RPO read option. You could throw it out to a quick toss to Kittle that they love doing, where they just motion him and you get almost like a run off it, but it counts as a pass. You have to change it up. You're this guru on offense, like a Sean McVay Jr. You have to be able to be dynamic. And I didn't really see the Kyle Shanahan that we all know him as, this dynamic play caller once Purdy went down. Because in my opinion, if you have a good enough offense, you shouldn't have to change your playbook once you lose a guy. You should be able to just put a new piece in and be able to run with it.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with what Brian said. I also think it's a little bit of bad luck too, but there's moments where you need to adjust and figure everything out on the fly, and not having your guy, you have to do what it takes to make Johnson successful, and it didn't look like that was happening early on. I know he got concussed, but then you have your quarterback who can't even throw the ball because he has a torn UCL and he's just in there toughing it out. Then you have to be creative, and that's what we don't know what Shanahan is being creative, and he wasn't. And I don't know if it was just because he was shell shocked as much as the team was, and this, the Eagles just took advantage. And at that point, it was like, all right, it is what it is. We'll see what we do. And it sucks if you have to pack it in that early, but maybe that was the thing. But he shouldn't. It's the NFC Championship. You got to make adjustments, and he didn't. But I don't think he needs to get fired. I'm not going to go that dramatic. I think has a couple more years left with San Francisco. I also think he just needs to find his guy that he can latch onto for years and not be this rotating thing, right? Where it's Garoppolo, but Garoppolo's not going to get you to hump. Okay, well, it's Trey Lance, but Trey Lance got hurt, so what's going on? Now you have Brock, it's like it was just a pinball thing, right? And to me, it's kind of this like Andy Reid situation where, he needed the right guy, and he had a bunch of success in Philly, but then he leaves, goes against, he gets Mahomes, and he, has this guy that he can now coach for 15 plus years if he wants to stay in coaching. I really think that's what Shanahan needs, and not this constant carousel of who is his guy, and he has to figure out who that is. And I know, Purdy's going to be on the shelf for a while, so who knows if he's going to pick him or see if it rock with Trey Lance.
Brady.
But He maybe at this rate, who knows? But I think he just needs to find the person that he can grow with, like Andy Reid did with Patrick Mahomes, in order to get over the hill. And I think that's what Shanahan needs. And if he does that, I think the 49ers will have a bunch of success. But again, it's tough with him because he has 3 different quarterbacks to choose from every other year. And he has to just figure out the one that he wants to rock with and grow with and stick with that guy. And if not, quickly move on and try to find the next one. But I really think it's too early to say fire him because he just keeps on having this quarterback carousel. But once he locks it in, I can see the 49ers have a bunch of success, which is just how good of a coach he is.
I don't think you could have made a better example of just a person. I'm sorry to interrupt. You're saying?
No, you're good. No, I think they're in trouble this offseason, though, because Trey Lance was had a losing record as a starting quarterback, and he's coming off injury. Most likely, I'm assuming Purdy's going to get surgery. That's like a year, Tommy John, right? So then you don't have him until late in the year. So, are you going to sign a free agent quarterback? No, in my opinion, I think Purdy's your guy. You went to the NFC Championship with him. He's better than Garoppolo. He's shown to be better than Trey Lance. Do you decide to roll the dice and give Trey Lance another shot? The first 8 weeks of the season, or 10 weeks of the season, and if it might be a lost season next year for San Francisco, where they go, out of the playoffs and just get a good pick, and then Purdy's back.
Remember though, with this,
or they can get their guy,
but also they have to improvise because they gave up those first and second rounders for CMC.
Wait, I thought it was a second rounder.
Sorry, second rounder. No, they didn't. You're right.
Yeah,
for the
so
second rounder.
But again, still, that coveted first. What happens? You know what I mean? So it's you could get Brady for a year. That might be a great option. You trade Trey Lance to a team that's looking for a quarterback. You
probably Brady a first with Trey too. Someone would probably give up a first.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. I think you get a second. You get a second or third.
At least a second. Yeah, you get at least a second.
Second or a third, depending on the team. For Trey, you sign Brady for a 1-year deal, and then if it doesn't work out, you got Purdy on the 3rd-year rookie deal. It's not really not a. It's a bad, it might be bad that season if it doesn't go well, but they have so many questions. It's actually,
So I actually don't really see the Brady. The more that I've been thinking about it the past few weeks, the less I see Brady as a prospect in San Francisco, just because of the dynamic that he has relationship-wise with quarterbacks, Shanahan particularly. I think he's looking more, like you guys said, of his guy, opposed to having this 1-year hiccup that may or may not work out and then scrapping it. Because right now their window is open, and I think that they can extend that window, that winning window, if they're able to acquire and get a blue chip first or second round pick for Trey Lance. Because in reality, I think, like you guys said, Brock Purdy is the guy, even if this is a lost year and he comes back late into the second half of the season. I think that the real reality is that maybe they re-sign Jimmy for 1 year and have him be the starting guy because of their relationship and rapport with the locker room. And then you usher in Purdy basically 6 weeks till the end of the year, assuming that he's on schedule. But right now, the iron is still hot. I think that they just got caught flat-footed traveling, away from the West Coast. We also forget that they've been essentially in the same time zone for 3 months. So I think traveling and not being prepared and ill-equipped, it's certainly no excuse from their perspective, but it definitely played a role in this game and the outcome. And I think that Philly's just confident and cocky at home. I think moving forward with Shanahan, my biggest criticism has always been that he alleges to be this offensive guru, and it seemed that he just had no answers in adjusting for this game. It's one thing to have the defense getting tired and being out there for too long, and you start trading possessions in terms of points and whatnot, but that's no excuse to not be productive on offense. And for me, it just boils down to an inability for him to be able to insert even a subpar guy like Johnson. Just, you got to get some kind of ball movement. You got to run some things, to Brian's credit. You have to be able to change up the game play. And because, similar to the advantage that Brock Purdy had about 6-8 weeks ago, no one had tape on him. No one had tape on this kid, even if he looked a little gun shy. So I think that has to play as an advantage into Shanahan. And he has to know full well as well that injuries are a reality in this league. And he's learned that the hard way at the beginning of the season. So I think he had to have been better equipped with his backup heading into this game.
And then my only, also Jimmy G was laughing on the sidelines a lot when caught. I wonder if everyone's going to read into that. But It would only make sense to have a 1-year quarterback, sign a quarterback to a 1-year deal with the possible future at hand, recovering from his looks like a season-long injury. And again, like I said, that's more for later on. But to have those kind of discussions, but we'll see where San Francisco goes. And just quickly on the Eagles, what really stuck out in this game in particular, besides what hasn't been mentioned yet, whether it's how lethal the pass rush was, how the running game, the running back by committee was all being utilized effectively, to Jalen Hurts feeling comfortable out there, to realizing when both players are on point, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are quite the tandem. What else did the Eagles do that really impressed you in this game?
Just comes to the pass rush, that defense, that front seven is the best. I'm going to continue to say it. Their front seven is the best front seven I've ever seen in my entire life. I think they wash. They are leaps and bounds above the Giants defense that won those Super Bowls in the mid 2000s. They're better than the Broncos that won when DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller were there. I've just never seen, they had double-digit sack leaders at every position at the defensive line. That's unheard of. They had 40 sacks combined between their 4 starters at the defensive line. That is unheard of.
They added to it in the middle of the season too, with
they added to it.
Yep.
Ndamukong Suh is an animal this game. He got right in Trent Williams' face at the end of the game and said, "You are my bitch," and that was amazing. I loved it.
He really gets on the right teams at the right time.
He does, of course. He always does. He's always good at that. You read the market. You're a valuable guy. Why would he want to play for an entire season? You know what I mean? He's gonna get a Super Bowl now and he's gonna retire. Good for him. You know what I mean? But
That's funny.
they played really well, and I gotta give kudos to Jalen Hurts. Like, this man is just built different. He doesn't seem stressed out. I've never seen a quarterback not stressed out like in an NFC Championship game. He was confident. He was poised. I don't think any offense really played good on both teams, per se, except the running game for the Eagles. Well, I guess the Eagles offense really didn't have to do a lot, so that's why I looked a little lackluster, because, when you're getting the ball near half the field, all you really have to do is have a couple of run plays and you're almost at the end zone. So, they did well. And Devontae Smith, I don't know, I think Devontae Smith is better than AJ Brown after watching him in the first series. I think the man has he's a better route runner. I think he's a better 50-50 ball guy. AJ Brown might be a bigger player, but Devontae Smith just is him, and I cannot wait to see him flourish more on this offense.
Those long arms, huh? I guess getting benched in the national championship halfway through, and if you get the opportunity to stay in the league, will really humble you.
Bench to the national championship and then bench the entire next season.
Mm-hmm.
And then the entire next season, he watched Tua and then he left.
Don't bring it up, all right? I'm a Georgia fan. You know what happened when they benched him, all right? We all know. If you're a college football fan, everyone knows what happened when they benched him. But Tua, got them a championship. Pissed me off. All right, but that's beside the point. But no, what impressed me, I think what everyone said is definitely just this pass rush. It's just relentless. They just never give up. They just absolutely crush you, no matter where you are in the field. They don't care at all. And the Eagles did what I think we expected. Is they took advantage of a bad situation. They know that their quarterback's hurt, so they were just on the attack the whole game and just destroy the confidence of the 49ers. But kudos to that defense. They're really scary, and that's me being a Giants fan. I'm not looking forward to having to face them for the next few years because they're only going to get better, especially with their rookie picks like Jordan Davis, who's just going to be a nightmare for years to come. But just the secondary on the Eagles are so good too. I mean, I was looking at the trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and the Saints got absolutely fleeced. If you look at that trade, it is looking terrible every single day. That dude's had an unbelievable season, and they have 2 pretty much Pro Bowl corners to go with him. So, they're just a very, very good team, but their defense is just incredible to watch. And that's me being a Giants fan. I hate crediting Philly with anything, but they're just a relentless team, and they're going to keep that going to the Super Bowl. And yeah, that was the thing that really impressed me most. And like Brian said, Hurts is just continuing being Hurts, having this great year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the MVP, but he just looked poised and collected, was taking some big shots on his runs later on, but he was just trying to just like run through people. He did not care at all. And I like seeing that from him because that dude is showing week in and week out that everyone sleeps on him. And now I'm happy to see that people are finally giving him the credit that he's, long deserved, because he really does deserve it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of how we evaluate the defense and the offense led by Jalen Hurts and Sirianni. I think it kind of speaks to the chicken and egg theory. It's like, okay, so you're running down people's throats, leading and spearheading a lethal offense. So your defense is able to kind of take risks and rest on their laurels in certain circumstances when they have a healthy lead. But I think that it really starts from the top down, particularly when you have great leadership like this. And I think Jalen Hurts' growth throughout the season has been tremendous. I thought it really showed out in this game. And, it's really hard to kind of overestimate that kind of the downstream effect that it has. So, without getting too cushy-feely, it's like, I think it definitely is like kind of the hallmark of this team. It's like, he was cast off from Oklahoma and Alabama and constantly was requiring a second chance. And then he took a backseat to Carson Wentz, and it looks like they won out with his circumstance. So he's used to kind of all that adversity. And I think that scrappiness and that hunger is what kind of flows down the tree for this entire roster.
Well, regardless, the game is over. Philly's going to the Super Bowl. And obviously next week we'll break down more on what they have to do to win this game. So transitioning to that, a game that was somewhat, and I emphasize the opposite of what we saw in the NFC Championship. The AFC Championship was a nail biter. It was a hell of a game. It was a lot of fun to watch. Now, we can obviously talk about the elephant in the room. How much do the officials play a role in this game? So why don't we start it off with that? The AFC Championship ends with the Kansas City Chiefs winning 23-20. They make their third Super Bowl in 5 years, and that ultimately sets up them against the Eagles. And it ultimately said the way they got there was a game-winning field goal by Harrison Butker. And there was a penalty, a roughing the passer penalty when Patrick Mahomes ran outside, hit by Joseph Asai, and that only led to what could have been considered a chip shot. And that was one of many penalties. And that penalty in particular was the right call, but we saw a game with plenty of penalties that were really questionable. From the Eli Manning hold, the hold on Patrick Mahomes' scramble, the third down that was, then wasn't again, and then was, the third down play that wasn't, the block in the backs that wasn't called, the alleged clip that was during Sky Moore's punt return that just blatantly wasn't called, and you can notice it in the replay. There was a lot of missed calls for both sides, and I'm going to throw it there. How much did the officials play a role into this game? And I'll say one thing to start, and it'll be short and sweet. I want the AFC Championship to be decided by the teams, not by the refs. And that's my simple quote on that. What do you guys feel about how the refs played a role in this game?
Yeah, I agree with you completely, but I also have I agree with you, but I have one comment on this though.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals didn't put themselves in the right positions because yes, they were suspect.
Yeah.
They were suspect calls, but they were calls enough to warrant the ref's attention. And the Eli Apple call, it was, you know what I mean? In my opinion, it was, I think it was pass interference. He had like two pass interferences, right? Eli Apple, I think.
Yeah.
I can confirm that, but you were saying,
inexcusable. You know what I mean? Like if you have two, even if one is suspect, that means that there's some element of a possible penalty in your technique that is an issue. The Asai play, inexcusable, aggravating, not the way to play football, just a stupid play whatsoever. But then on the other side, that play that happened on the scramble, if you look at the backside, Trey Hendrickson was held the entire play on
Yep.
Pat Mahomes scramble, and you could see it in the TV. And it's, in my opinion, there's every coach always says there's a hold that never gets called on every single play in the NFL, on replay. But when it's in the front of the screen, there has to be some booth review by New York. If you could see it in the, this is entertainment. So where's the window for that? The TV. If you could see it in the TV, my 32 by 24 TV, whatever it is, TLC, LED TV. If I could see it on that, clear as day, there should be a booth review immediately. That would have been a negated play. They would have pushed back for like a 50-yard field goal. Bucker is almost automatic, so he probably still makes it. But
you never know.
There'll be like 8 seconds left on the clock, which means that after that field goal, they do the squib. Maybe Burrow gets one more play in. So it's just, I don't know. In my opinion, it's very hard to judge, calls, because in the moment you don't know how it looks. We have the ability to see it in like a 3D, isolated perspective. When actually when you're an actual ref and you're only getting that, that one, not 2D, but it's right in front of you. But you don't see that, angled view that most people see.
Yeah,
it's very hard to make calls. But definitely the play calls here definitely influence the game significantly.
It really amazes me how many people want to be officials and refs, and as the years go by, it seems worse. They get worse and worse perceptions, and I must pay really well. So that's all I have to say there.
It doesn't.
There it goes. It doesn't. They just like to call games, I guess.
They get abused, man. They're pigeonholed in because they have a small staff of employees that travel with these teams too. Alex, do you want to go first? Because I have a lot to say.
I guess, you have a lot, because I don't really have much, but I would, there's definitely missed calls, and we need to get a report on what might have been missed. I know it gets people infuriated, but I know, like, in the NBA, you have the final 2 minutes and things that get missed, they get reports. A lot of it happened this weekend. If you look at the league, I'm not going to delve into that, but
no apologies were given by the NFL refs.
Yeah, exactly. But the NBA, they did for a very big call that happened in the Lakers game, but I'm not going to delve into that. But I think there's stuff, at least from this game, that we need to know what might have been missed. And I know the game was over, and it's awful to try to say like the game was compromised, but if that's the case, we'll get over it eventually. But we need people to own up here on certain things that were missed, especially late in this game. I know the Asai one. I know that's tough. It's a heat of the moment. Everyone needs to get heat off that guy. That guy played his butt off that game. I have a ton of respect for BJ Hill, who's a former Giant, for what he did in the postgame for Asai, like being right next to him to like they could be there for him because the media was ruthless on him. But he made a dumb play.
Rightfully so. He was an idiot.
Yeah, it was just like a bad play, and his teammate yelled at him, like, why the F were you doing? It was a house thing, but I'm happy that BJ Hill took the leadership role to say, this kid's young, he worked his butt off, and he made a really bad play, but, like, can we get the heat off him a little bit? And the kid was crying. Like, he was still crying post-game because, he made a big mistake, but he's a young kid.
And also give him credit because he didn't shy away from the media.
No,
he took every single question.
He took every question and didn't take the blame, and I respect him for that. And, it was an idiotic play. He should have known Mahomes is giving himself up. You just don't hit him once he gets into the sideline. Just don't do it. It was just a bang play. It happens. He was just a second too late. It was a bad call and it cost him the game. But there are certain things. I messaged you guys in real time on the Sky Moore return. There was definitely a clipping. I thought there was a block in the back as well on that call too. I think there was 2 missed calls on that one play alone. That set him up, right? So there's definitely things that happened in this game that were weird, especially the third down play that was not, then it was, they got the stop, then it was, and then you get the reset, then they get the first down. It's BS,
Madden
right?
rewind.
That was terrible. And we need, like I said, just a report, explanation on why these certain things were, why it was allowed, and what might be going forward. Because I think that's how everyone makes mistakes. Missed calls happen in sports. It happens across every single thing. But you have to own up to it. You have to fess up to it that we miss these calls here so that all the fans going forward can be like, okay, now next game, Super Bowl, we can keep our eyes out for things like that if it's getting called.
No, but Alex, I love you, but no, like we have replay. This is the most lucrative league in the whole.
And that too. Yeah, I agree.
There's no excuse that these things continue year after year to keep happening.
Yeah.
Falling, right through the cracks because you can't undo these things. These are career changing events that happened, particularly with the AFC and NFC Championship. But
look at the Saints Rams game. That literally,
but I'm saying
Drew Brees would be in another category of NFL quarterbacks.
And how long did it take for the NFL to kind of fess up to kind of that one? It still felt like it took forever for them to finally be like, we missed it there.
So that they dodged it like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
But I want to start with my ultimate conclusion and assessment of the game in its totality and like what I took from it, and then I want to kind of parse it apart because you guys all made great points. And Matt, at the outset, you basically outlined every grievance that I had from this game. I wasn't rooting for the Bengals. I obviously hate the Chiefs. I'll just be transparent about that. But the reality is this league really, really needs Pat Mahomes in another Super Bowl. They love this kid. They love his image for the league. They love everything that he stands for this team and for that franchise and for the league as a whole. And it really bothers me that they push certain guys and they diminish certain guys. I'm listening to Tony Romo, and he's literally doing everything except for finishing this guy off in real time with a pearl necklace and then at the same time, shitting all over Burrow during the live stream.
Who is the future of the league?
Yeah.
In my opinion.
The future of the league, and the other one didn't just go to the Super Bowl last year. So it just fucking pisses me off. And again, it's like the highlight, the quintessential moments of just how they were able to nudge this game and keep it close and keep it one possession was obviously the third down that was replayed, even though they had the sound system fine. They could see the guy, they could see the ref coming in, waving him off, but he stopped at a fraction of the field. He could have come into the play and cut off the play.
Yeah, which is what they normally do.
So that gave me a lot of concern because I'm like, why the fuck would they replay this again? Zach Taylor was obviously pissed. And then the second one was that I don't know if Matt mentioned, but I will anyway, is there was a review upon a third and like short where there was a guy, I think Pacheco reached out and he was
yep.
But it extended the drive and like no one's even like discussing that one. And that was a huge one because it continued to keep that drive alive. And I guess, for those two in particular, in addition to just the way that so some of the holds were called and weren't called and all this and stuff. Like I understand that there's going to be holds on every single play regardless, but you really like, if you're going to let these players play in the championship game, you have to call the ones that are relative to the play. And there was very, very partisan selective choice calls in terms of the flags that were thrown, particularly when you look at some of the Chiefs players getting home versus the guys like Hendrickson, I think Hubbard as well, that basically got there, that disrupted the play, but there was no flag called.
They got held the entire game. The entire
game. So one guy gets, he gets flushed out. He's getting sacked in the pocket 5 times for the game, or however many total sacks there were between Kansas City. But Spagnuolo was able to just play with house money essentially, and the defensive coordinator for Cincinnati was like, he had to like really, really like be frugal and judicious about sending 5 and waiting late into the third quarter because he knew that he was going to get burned even with a marginal offense that Kansas City set forward with the injuries. So for me, it's sad to see that these types of nepotistic moves ultimately turn the tides of a league that makes so much money. And it's a shame because like I firmly believe just with the eye test that in the second half, I thought that Cincinnati outplayed Kansas City. I thought Absolutely. That even in situations where they were punting 3 and out, yada, yada, I thought that they made enough plays to keep that game tight neck and neck. And it was just a damn shame to see the way it was decided. It's one thing if a guy makes a mistake. Who was the lineman that had the call at the end?
Asai, the DT.
Yeah, I mean he should know better. I'm not even going to blame the refs on that. That's an easy call.
It is. Yeah.
And
you can't.
It's also hard though. It's also hard. Like you got to remember, like this new rule, of roughing the passer and even like hitting someone out of bounds is what, like 5 years old.
Yeah.
All right. So like the whole, you got to remember these guys are 25, 26, 27 years old. All right. So if you take out those 5 years, they've been doing this from like the age of like 5 to 22. Like, I'm sorry, but like even when I played, like there was, if you could get in a good hit on the sideline while a quarterback wasn't sliding, you did it just because if you're not going to slide, you're going to get punished. That's just the rule.
Yeah.
That's like the hidden
circle,
rule of playing.
But
It
the
could
thing
also
is,
be Mahomes' strategy, knowing that with that momentum he'd get.
A lot
yeah,
of,
no,
a lot of
see,
quarterback
I'm-
strategy is that though.
Yeah, if I'm a quarterback and I'm running out of bounds, I am
Yeah.
not falling. I am standing straight up
A
and
lot,
taking a
yeah,
crack.
yeah. They try to bait it. It's what quarterbacks do these days. They start going
But
towards
I
the
also
sideline and then they
I
get
also
drilled.
think there needs. I'm a firm proponent of there needs to be some offensive penalty on quarterbacks from incorrectly sliding, and for going going parallel with the sideline and like not parallel
And
with the
then
sideline.
diverting. Yeah.
And then diverting, like if I understand you're trying to extend yards, but if you're gonna do it in a way that you're trying to bait a call, like how there's like balking and stuff like that, and people flop in the NBA, like we have to have some like consequence for the quarterbacks as well, because like as a defensive player, you're just going see ball, get ball, and if you're still in between, the sidelines, you're gonna get hit.
I'm not in favor of adding more taxation on the game in terms of how they assess it. I would rather them revert back to simplicity football, not all this bullshit with like, is it a catch? Is it not? Just call the game as you see it, and you go in and post in the booth and you figure it out if you get the wrong. But the issue I have is just the way that this game was decided. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's third quarter, 6 minutes left. They have them dead to right. It's fourth down. And they extended that drive that put them back into touchdown range. So it's just shit like that it's so blatantly obvious. And again, it just bothers me that they have every tool and every monetary thing at their disposal, and they're able to still get it wrong. It just bothers me a lot.
I don't blame you, and it's justified.
If I could make one quick point,
make as many points as you want.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. So, like in the NBA, like we saw that LeBron call, right? That we don't want to talk about. Obviously, in an 82 game season, will that impact it as much as this football game that only has 17 games? No, not that much. So my feeling is this: in the playoffs, if there is a completely outlandish call that wasn't the case, or a blatant penalty that that didn't get called, right? That completely changes the course of the game, or multiple. I feel like there has to be some type of compensation draft pick for the other team. I think that might be a good thing, because you see the Saints Rams one, right? It's the blatant PI call. I'm sorry, the Saints win that game. We all know that, right? In my opinion, that should get you a 7th round pick. When the league comes out and says, hey, that was the wrong call, the Des Bryant catch. All right, so you can't give me back that Super Bowl win. You can't get me back into the Super Bowl. Can't give me that NFC Championship win. Can't give me the divisional round win. What can you do? I'm not saying a 2nd round pick or a 3rd. That's obscene. Give me a 7th or a 6th. If there's enough of them in a game. So like this game, in my opinion, there were enough bad calls in the Cincinnati against Cincinnati.
A whole round of pick.
Yeah. That you could probably get yourself a 6th or a 7th out of this.
You could get an expansion team.
Literally.
Yeah. I was gonna say my thing is, and I'm not saying this because I work for the NBA
or cap,
or something.
Or give them money.
I agree with getting something, but I know that they already have a challenge flag for rulings on the field and things like that. I think if you add a challenge flag for penalty calls, things might be and it might be tough because it's how the refs saw it. But if there's someone in New York or someone that you can throw a penalty flag within maybe a certain time frame, the last like 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, you get one where there's a pass interference, there is a hold, there is a roughing the passer, there is something, you can challenge that call, because you have to somehow hold these refs accountable. And right now, okay, they miss a catch, they can get that reviewed, but a roughing the passer or something like that, where we've seen plenty of horrible roughing the passer calls this year, where they don't get a second chance to maybe just hit the booth and be like, you know what, after review, talk to you or whoever. Okay, and I know that's tough to try to do because the flags will be thrown all the time. but there has to be something that is more added to the refs to hold them more accountable, because right now they really only have something on like a ruling, right? A touchdown or a fumble or an interception, or is it a catch? Is it not a catch? It has to be something to how they're calling the game, especially after this one, where there's just so many missed calls where someone could be like, you clearly missed the pass interference. Boom, I'm throwing it. You go look at that and tell me that's not pass interference. And they look at it and be like, oh, wait, okay, we missed it. It holds them a little more accountable to actually calling the game straight. But there has to be something, I think, in place. The compensation, whatever, but there has to be something where these refs are held more accountable, because especially this year, it's felt like officiating has been not great in the NFL. It's been probably the worst I've seen in a really long time. And there just has to be something where these teams, if there's something where these teams have to try to hold these refs more accountable. And I don't know if that's putting something in place, like I said, a challenge flag or something. And I know that's tough to judge because the refs made the call in the field, and are they going to correct themselves? Who knows? But we've seen it in the NBA, and lately it's been pretty good when the coaches travel and the refs hold up to themselves, where they say, hold on a second, it actually wasn't this call, or hold up, we missed this, it actually was this, they're correct. We've seen it happen. So they have to figure out something to hold these refs more accountable, because like I said, yesterday, took away what should have been a great game that probably should have gone to overtime. And because of some of these flags late or missed calls late, we got robbed of that. And the players got robbed of that. And it's unfortunate for them, because now people are looking at the league like it's a joke, and the refs a joke, and you're compromising the game. So they have to find something to hold these refs a little bit more accountable going forward.
I say that the refs should just face the media. They should be required to face the media. I don't know what legal loopholes they have to make that happen, or even if it's possible, but they should go in front of the stand as well and make that certain call, so you don't have situations like Joey Bosa looking out for them and finding them.
You know what? I almost look at them as like the Supreme Court. It's like either half the country loves you or half the country wants to kill you. It's like there's no
good point.
There's no middle ground, and there's no safety and protections for these people. I mean, and again, I'm not advocating for anybody to like target these people. We just want accountability for consistency in their job. And I think the same kind of goes, in a macro lens for the judicial system, because it's like, if people just keep to their principles and they keep consistent with their verdicts and at least their output, I think that people would be a lot more willing to live with that, even if it's not what they agree with.
I also say this, being an official gets harder as the rules get more stringent.
Yeah.
And I think a big push on this, has always been player safety. That's why there's more penalties and stuff like that, especially roughing the passer. But I'm sorry, you play football. We have all these stringent rules, okay? And multiple people in the last 5 weeks of the season went to the hospital. You know what I mean? Even Ladarius Sneed got knocked out crazy in this game. This is a tough sport, okay? So all these penalties, they protect players, hopefully, but at the same time, this is what you sign up for. We know the risks, regardless if you have these rules or not. You're still having high impact contact and stuff like that. People are going to get hurt. Revert back to the old ways. It's that simple. Roughing the passer, you play quarterback. You wear a helmet and shoulder pads. If you're so concerned with your quarterback getting hurt, then we should be playing flag football then, or they shouldn't be wearing a helmet and shoulder pads, and you're not allowed to hit him. Get rid of sacks then, because it's aggravating. Chris Jones could tee up on Joe Burrow the entire game, but God forbid Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson hit, literally the second coming of Jesus to the NFL and Pat Mahomes. It's a travesty, and it's just aggravating. It's aggravating. There's no fairness in these rules based on star power. So in that case, they have to dumb them back to the old ways. I'm not saying bring back the horse collar, but I'm saying like a quarterback's going to get hit. It's the game. You know what? A lot of these quarterbacks might actually not get hurt if they got hit a little more and got a couple of calluses on their body. All right. And not even the avocado ice cream and, basically, all pompous and everything like that with their beauty cleansers and stuff like that on their face. Okay. How about take a beating? Okay. And last a decade of the NFL. It's okay. You could do it. You're good. You guys are strong. You guys work out. You're conditioned. Take a hit. It's okay. Like, we talk about all these refs, all these calls. These calls, half these calls are bullshit. A holding, pass interference. Okay. All right. A guy grabbed your jersey. Okay. It happened. All right. Like it has to like sometimes I think PI is a little too hard. If a guy's holding on someone's hip, these guys are cutting 90 degrees each way. You know, if you just have your arm out mid-run and they hit, you know, literally, if a cornerback is running like this and a receiver cuts across their arm, that's just in a
Wait,
mid-run,
just
they
quickly, can
call
you
it a
explain
PI.
that for the ones who aren't watching? If they run like what?
Yeah. So basically, you know, when you run, right, you're moving your arms up and down, right? And when you're, you know, if especially the go route, right, or a stop and go, right, or some type of, you know, they had one in, you know, in a simple route, you go like 10 yards up the field, you cut in like 3 yards into the field, and then back up into a go route or a deep vertical, right? And that really jumbles a cornerback who's playing man coverage or press coverage, and he's in your face, he's riding, you know, he's taught, you know, he's to put his hand on your hip and follow you up that route. The minute you cross his face, your body's in the way. So he's automatically hitting into you. It's like, you know, it doesn't make sense how there's a PI call on that. Because in my opinion, if you think about it like this, how many times do tight ends get called offensive pass interference when they run, you know, an out
Hitting a
route,
screen.
and then
Yeah.
and then the slot runs a slant, and it's basically like a pick. Well, if that's the case, you know what I mean? So it's like, and people flip out about that, but then they don't flip out when, you know, a receiver runs into a cornerback and they call PI or unnecessary roughness or hands to the face. Like, think about it. You're doing press coverage, which you're taught to slam both your wrists into a guy's chest. If he makes one quick jab and he ducks his head, it's hitting him in the helmet. Whose fault is that? You're taught the correct technique. He just decided to run a different route. So, like, where are we going to start seeing leniency? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, all these rules, I get, you know, you don't want this, that, the other thing to happen. But guess what? If a receiver gets hit in the head, he'll be okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I messaged this how many times to these guys since I've joined this show, right? For roughing the passer, just say my example is it has to go back a little bit to the old ways, but it has to be an egregious hit. Like if you hit the quarterback dead in the knee, and I know people might do that, they might not, but if you hit him dead in the knee or dead in the head, or you intentionally suplex them like it's a WWE move after you wrap them up, or you
Like
clearly
Trent
wrap them
Williams
up,
did in that
yeah, exactly,
scramble.
right? Yeah, like in a fight, right? If you clearly wrap them up, spin them around, and throw them over your shoulder like it's nothing, yeah, you're gonna get a flag called on you. But other than that, we have to stop with this stupid. I held on to you, I turned you around and brought you to the ground, and that's gonna get thrown in a flag. It has to be an egregious, intentional try to harm you kind of move to throw that flag, right? So that was the thing I wanted to say roughing the passer. And like I said, the whole people accountable. Just look at the NBA referees page lately. And I know we talk about the LeBron foul, but I've been hearing it for the last 3 hours because of work, and I didn't want to talk about it. But the NBA referee page was an official page, literally tweeted after a missed call, right? This is the LeBron missed foul call. They said, like everyone else, referees make mistakes. We made one at the end of last night's game, and it is gut-wrenching for us. This play weighed heavily and caused sleepless nights, so we strive to be the best referees we can be. When have we seen that ever from the NFL? After an egregious missed call where they flat out, okay, you know, and I know LeBron was involved, so that might have played into it. I'm not going to go deep dive into that. But they said that they said it for other missed calls, and they have a 2-minute report where they own up to their mistakes. And I think that's what something we have to get. And I know, but that might not change anything. But like I said, there has to be something that we put more to hold these refs accountable, because lately it's been terrible. And like I said, especially with roughing the passer this year, my big change is it has to be something. And I know it's hard to judge, but it has to be something where you're intentionally really trying to hurt the quarterback. Like I said, dive for their knees, you're head hunting, or you're wrapping up and post wrap up where the whistle's blowing, they tell you the play's dead. You intentionally go and try to slam them into the ground, or you literally, you know, in a wrap, lift them up and try to hurl them. If you wrap them up and bring them to the ground normal, like a normal tackle, that should never, ever be called a roughing the passer. But like I said, if it's you wrap them up and they're kind of blowing the whistle, you wrap them up and you're throwing them over your shoulder and try to make them land on their head, then yeah, you can throw roughing the passer there. But yeah, it's just tough with these refs and what to do going forward. But like I said, there has to be something a little more accountable, because it's, especially this year, I feel I've gotten more texts where everyone's like, what the hell has gone with officiating compared to years past?
I'll make this one last point when it comes to like the roughing the passer. This is what I've always said, right? You have to understand physics to understand roughing the passer and the actual understanding of the penalty. Ready? So as a defensive end, you are about 4 to 5 feet away from the center, right? Just do the math. So that's it's called towards the mesh. You're doing a 45-degree diagonal line to the mesh. And that's where the quarterback and the running back are, right? Which means if you then you bend over the hip of the tackle, you're bending now and curving up to try to hit, the quarterback, after five or 7 step drop back, right? If you grab the guy's hips and you're continually to go diagonal, right? Where are your legs? Where's the momentum that's going to, if you're circled down, right? And you're wrapping, your arms are wrapped around his hips, your momentum is pulling your legs around him counterclockwise if you're coming from the right side, right? Which means you're going to Maytag wash him around and he's going to spin. Like that is just a roughing the passer. That's just physics. It's called the way force goes and momentum.
Yeah.
Like, where is the common sense and science of these penalties? It's like we're a smart people. We understand this. You grab a guy at the hips, right? Or look at like a socket wrench, right? You ever grab a socket wrench and you spin the actual wrench around when you hold on to the socket part of it? That's what happens on a sack. So like, where are these roughing the passers? It's just like, I understand they're the money makers to quarterbacks, but like DNs also make 15 to 20 million a year too. So it doesn't really make sense to me.
D tackles are about to be making 15 to 20, if not more, starting soon. So there's that too.
Hopefully someday the NFL officials and all professional officials will realize the impact they are making, the people they are upsetting, and hopefully it creates a legitimate change. So just final points. Was there anything that the Chiefs did that haven't been mentioned already that really impressed you in this game, despite all the referee influence in it?
I'm just going to continue my Isaiah Pacheco shout out, even though I'm a Georgia fan, but just because I've seen him from Rutgers to here, it's pretty cool to see that him turn his career into what he is now as a 7th round draft choice, and now he's the starting running back for a team that's in the Super Bowl. Just keep on doing what you're doing, Isaiah. I'm a big supporter of you, and I might get your Chiefs jersey if you continue up. Even though it's weird that he's wearing number 10, which Tyreek Hill's probably going to get it retired in. So that's the weird thing. But other than that, he's just still impressed me just of what he's done week in and week out, and taking the role as a 7th round draft pick to now being the starting running back for the Chiefs and holding his own, and being a powerful runner has been fun to watch for me, who sat in the stands and watched a lot of his games in his career.
How about the Chiefs, their defense? Chris Jones and everyone else, especially Chris Jones, is really
Chris
cooking
Jones
and
defensive play of the year.
And
Easily
then
I
messaged you guys. They made the Bengals O-line look like Joe Burrow in his rookie year first half. He was just getting absolutely destroyed every single play. I was like, oh boy, this is not going to end well.
And Mahomes didn't look hurt at all. He did not get phased whatsoever. And you really make a strong point. If he could win the 2nd Super Bowl, man, if he retired already, he can already go to Canton. Like, I don't mean to say that.
Probably,
5 years.
Probably.
I mean, if he wins another one, he has himself locked in already.
Listen, if Terrell Davis could go into the Hall of Fame with 7,000 rushing yards, anyone who has a great 5-year stretch could make it to the Super Bowl.
Tiki Barber's
if they end. Well, yeah, if you don't fall off and you end because of an injury, right? You could get in the Hall of Fame. It's that simple. So if Pat Mahomes out of nowhere disappeared, he'd be in the Hall of Fame tomorrow. It's just how it is. I'll say this one thing. For the Chiefs, Pat Mahomes played a great game. Marquez Scaling Valdez, 6 catches, 111 yards and a touchdown. Good for him. Travis Kelce, 78 yards and a tutty with that back injury. But outside of that, like, I'm sorry, but like this Chiefs offense is ass outside of all of those 3. Like garbage. Like it's aggravating to me that the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl right now because they were leaps and bounds worse than the Cincinnati Bengals at almost every position. Like it's crazy to me because the way I think about it is Travis Kelce's a receiver. Jamar Chase equals him out with Travis Kelce. T. Higgins is better. Tyler Boyd is better. Trent Irwin is better. Hayden Hurst is better than a couple of their pass catchers. Their running back room is better. Their quarterback and Pat Mahomes are close enough. And their defense is leaps and bounds better than the Chiefs defense. So like, I don't know. I'm worried if I'm the Chiefs. I'm very worried from the Eagles because the Eagles are poised to absolutely paddywhack them, like in any shape and form. Like this is going to be a scary Super Bowl, in my opinion, if you're not prepared correctly. So they have to be careful.
Totally agree.
Definitely. Alex Ranelli, is there anything that really stuck out for the Chiefs for you this Sunday? This past Sunday?
You guys hit all the big points. I was impressed with Spagnola's defense, particularly with Chris Jones, and they're just their ability to break through the line and expose the weaknesses for Cincinnati. I thought it was just great game management and great scouting. Nothing more to add. Yeah.
I have one last question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
If Steve Spagnuolo wins another Super Bowl, where are you guys going to start ranking him on top defensive coordinators of all time?
No. He's a part of the ride.
He's a part of the ride. He would be a 3-time Super Bowl champ if he wins on the Super Bowl.
So Robert Horry won 7.
I think Steve Spagnuolo is up there with some of the best coordinators to do it, and doing it in 2 different conferences as well. He deserves a lot of credit for that.
I might not put him as the greatest, but you could put him in the conversation that he's one of the greatest coordinators we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
He's really good at not testing being a full-time head coach either. He's only done interims.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say maybe schematically not one of the best, but I would say he is the best at bargain shopping, making down defenses out of the pieces around him. He's not going to have a top defense, but he could take, 3 good studs on defense and then put some average guys around them and make it work.
Yep.
Do I trust him though against a top offense? No, but for a regular season DC, yeah, good for him.
All right, good stuff, gentlemen. Well, let's enjoy the week in between the Super Bowl. We'll see you in a week from now to preview it all, and then we'll react 2 weeks after that. But going down to the wire, the Chiefs and the Eagles. Those are your Super Bowl teams this year. How about that? Should be a lot of fun. So Alex Ranellia, Brian McKeon, and Alex Young, thank you as always. And we will see you next week to preview Super Bowl 57.
Yes.